So, hello everybody, welcome back. Courtney and I have decided to have a few conversations over a few episodes of our podcast where we talk a bit about two of the fundamental tools that we love to use with our clients. Incidentally, one of them very much looks at the individual's contribution to human organizations and change and development. And then the other one looks as a complement to that from the collective perspective. And today we're going to start with Courtney's one of Courtney's favorite approaches, which is the Enneagram. And so, Courtney, I'm going to kick off by asking you, tell us a very high level what the Enneagram is. And in particular, we always like origin stories on this podcast. What was your origin story? How did you come across it?
Okay, so starting with the origin story, I came across it because essentially my husband brought home a book about it from somebody he heard about it from at work, I think. The books I began with were not the right books, if I'm being honest. They were too in-depth, they were too abstract, and they were giving me too much room to try to figure it out myself. And so that is a foundation I use when I talk to everybody else about how you can easily mistype yourself if you aren't careful with sort of the way you come into this work, because it is quite complicated in a lovely way, but it is quite complex. And so as I got to know it, at first I was like, oh, I don't know about this. But it had a lot of really interesting angles to it, and it was built in sacred geometry and had a lot of history and a lot of weight around how it was created as a psychological instrument. So I was fascinated enough to keep going. And then I got very, very hooked on a version of it in 2019 and started lightly using it with clients just in time for the pandemic. So then over the course of the next couple of years, I got much more involved with it, had more time with it, really saw it activated with clients in a really, really cool way, and came into a different version of it that was very accurate and got a very anchored certification in that version so that I could
Yes.
really start understanding it at the level of depth that it needed and required. And thank goodness I had background in it before I got to the certification level, because again, it's complex. All that to say, I'm now at a point where hundreds of these later, I'm playing around with my own point of view on it and
hmm
utilizing it in new and different ways. And I think if well explained, it's very obvious and it feels like coming home to yourself. But all the
Yes.
background to get there is a lot. So I always encourage people to definitely go out and get an assessment. If you want to know the best ones, please ask, and I'm happy to give you a variety of options, but the best option is the best option. And work with somebody to understand it.
Yeah.
And following this podcast, we will break into lots of different elements of it. So I think
Yes.
we'll be able to offer a lot of utility around the basics here.
Yeah. Terrific. So I'm right to call it a personality profiling system. Is it more than that? Is it? Because whenever I think of personality profiling, I remember years back, somebody insisting that I did was the MBTI
Oh yeah,
profile.
yeah. Myers-Briggs, yeah.
Myers-Briggs, that was huge for a while, and people used to be very proud of describing themselves in these particular ways. And I always remember that, much as they were very proud of being able to share the results of the profile, they never really worked out how to work together with other people with it. That seems to
Never
like
really applicable. Yeah,
it's like
small
that
thing.
didn't
Yeah,
work
yeah,
then. So,
yeah.
but I guess for you, knowing you as I do, I guess the Enneagram is different for you than that.
That is a really good frame because yes, it falls into the category of what we'll call a psychometric assessment. But it is a person's assessment of themselves, right?
Yeah.
In the way that they take it. The one that I most recommend is very highly validated, like it's about 96% accuracy. So it's going to be very different from an MBTI or a DISC or a Strengths Finder because it has a lot more layers and components. And the version I use is with a company that just validates it a lot, like really works hard on making sure it's accurate.
Mm.
So that's helpful. And it's very complex. So usually people's reaction to it is something between, how did you know that about me? And ugh,
Yeah.
which is, a fair and human reaction. So,
Yeah.
but as they get to sit with it a little bit, the reaction is feeling very seen and feeling
Yes.
very understood. And the thing I love the most about the Enneagram is, at least the way I utilize it, we are all of the numbers. And
Mm.
we are one to a greater degree, or sometimes people will be on the cusp of two, but there are layers to how we utilize all the energies of the Enneagram all the time and all the aspects of the Enneagram all the time. We just
Yes.
tend toward some more than others. And the other thing I love about it is it really says we are who we are from birth. And
Yes.
the way we deal with the world evolves and changes with friends and family and loved ones and tragedy and
Hmm.
growth and joy. But we fundamentally don't change. We
Mm.
fundamentally have a core about us that has been true from the very beginning. And
Yes.
that's the coming home to yourself part, right? So
Yes.
that's, I think, where people are like, oh, okay. And they can open up to a different way of seeing themselves and others. And I
Yes.
find it in a group or a team or both to be really a nice empathy that's given to people without them
Yes.
having to sort of join somebody else's point of view. Like they
Yes.
may very much disagree, they may have a lot of conflict, but they can have heart for, they can have,
Yes.
understanding of,
Yes.
even in spite of these other things that don't line up and match. And I think that makes
Yes.
it different from something that has four characters and says you're probably an engineer versus a salesperson or whatever.
Yes. Yeah. I'm just reflecting on, watching you use it, because when I last saw you use it, you were definitely in the place of how we are going to use this together as a team, as a group of people, how we're going to interact and bring it all together, literally all together. You'd already done the individual assessment and the individual reflection one to one with each of the people and what it meant for them as an individual, but the really powerful thing was seeing you work it in the group, you know.
And what I always find powerful is when people, the one-on-one conversations are always quite confidential and private, as they should be. But
Yes.
it's interesting how much people own and bring the details of just 1 hour of that kind of
Mm.
review into a group setting and start really possessing the details about it in a way that are really, really interesting. And
Yes.
they start immediately applying it, which is
Hmm.
different from other tools I've used in the past. They start
Yes.
pulling from their real life and saying, oh, people always say that about me, or I know this about myself, or they'll be very tongue-in-cheek and self-deprecating about certain things. But
Mm.
like I said, it's really nice to see this sort of shared compassion that comes out of it, and people
Yes.
really understanding themselves and seeing others in the
Yes.
process of getting together around this work. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I think that's so important because we're in one of our episodes already. We've talked a lot about trust and how so many of our clients are passionate, as they should be, about building trust. And I'm just really realizing this. There's a model I've borrowed from another author. He talks about the triangle of trust, and the three lines of the triangle are credibility. Can I do what I say I can do?
Right.
If I'm an engineer, can I engineer things? Um, Reliability. Do I show up on time, and do I do what I say I'm going to do, or do I let you down all the time? Reliability. Both of these things very important for building trust. And the one which a lot of my clients sometimes struggle with is the third one, which is intimacy, which
Mm,
is about empathy, which is about, oh, yeah, so you would do that then. Just as a way
right.
I would do this, I would do that, wouldn't I? And how all my family is always telling me I'm like that. You would do that too. And so there's already an empathy being built, an intimacy being built, which is a fabulous foundation to trust then.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
one way that I've applied it is by pulling it into something that I like to think of as human quotient, which is merging your sort of intellectual intelligence, or what you're trained to do, your social intelligence, or how you are with others, and your emotional intelligence, or how you are with yourself and with understanding different things, and your self-awareness being quite rare. And
Hmm.
when you put all those things together, you have a human quotient. You have a way of people being at their very, very best. But when
Yes.
you don't have one of those things, very similar to your triangle, it's
Yes.
really lopsided and it really won't work. And
Mm.
you can be highly socially intelligent and intellectually intelligent and not be self-aware.
Yes.
Can be highly intellectually intelligent and not the other two things, or maybe very emotionally intelligent, which only a few people are, but not
Yes.
understanding others or not really knowing the details of your. So it's very interesting. And the Enneagram itself has a lot of structure to it, which we can talk
Yes.
about a little bit here, and
Yes.
then get into in a lot more depth later.
Yeah.
That offers us, I think, a way of saying, like, not only does it feel right, but here's what the data tells us, and
Yes.
here's why that is the case. So, like, I was
Yes.
just having a call this morning with a board member who was asking about tangibility, and
Uh-huh.
how do we make it tangible? This tool is fantastic for sharing tangibility in a common language that people can
Mm.
use together.
Mm. Beautiful. So why don't we wrap up this episode, come towards the close of this episode by you giving everybody a picture of the Enneagram and maybe the high level overview, and then, as you say, in future episodes, we can dive into some of the really great rabbit holes,
Yeah,
which I
and
know
they are.
existed in
Yes. Watch out. The whole podcast will become about this. The Enneagram's gotten very pop culture. There are a lot of people that love it right now. I would really recommend being conscientious about how you go about figuring out who you are. There's a lot of great
Yes.
resources. So just write to us via this podcast and ask, and I'll give you that list of resources, or we'll put it in
Yeah.
the show notes. But in any case, the structure of the Enneagram is there are these elements. The first, most people will understand or remember or know if they've heard of the Enneagram, is Ennea means nine. So there are nine types. There are nine
Mm.
core energies or styles or types. MBTI's got four, DISC has four, but Enneagram has nine. And so each of us will have one of those numbers. I'm a nine, I'm an eight, I'm a three, I'm a four, whatever. That's your core type, or what motivates you, not how you
Yeah.
behave, because behavior is an outcome, but what motivates or drives you. And as we
Mm.
said a minute ago, what does so from birth, like how you
Yes.
have always been, essentially. And then when you're
Yes.
very little, how you morph and shape that into this reality.
Yes.
So that's the core style. Then we have the instincts. There are three, and everybody has the same three, and they're in a stack, but everybody has one that's a little bit higher than the others.
Okay.
The instincts are um, social, which is about the big picture, the greater good, and being conscientious of everybody. It's not about being social. It's not about wanting to be an extrovert or go out all the
Yeah.
time. It's about being concerned with the whole and the
Yes.
big picture. So in a company, that would be the whole organization or the whole industry or the whole team.
Yes.
And then there is intimate or SX, and that is about one-on-one relationships.
Hmm.
And one-on-one relationship instinct is all about you and any one other person. So that's a
Mm.
partner, or that's a colleague, or that's a boss, but you want to work everything out in a one-on-one conversation. Those are
Yes.
one-on-one instinct people. And the last is self-preservation. And self-preservation is not selfishness. It's care for what happens next, care for individual role, care for how things are going to go in
Mm.
terms of safety.
Mm.
Self-preservation is quite safety oriented. So but it's also individual role oriented. So a self-preservation person is going to look at that first. So when we look at the
Yes.
instincts, we think about the why people do what they do. And when we understand that stack, we can see immediately why people have different needs. For instance, a
Yes.
social person loves a team meeting, loves
Yes.
an all hands meeting. A
Yes.
one-on-one person loves a one-on-one. And a self-preservation person often wants to put their head down and do some things on their own before they go to either conversation. So if they
Yes.
figure out the why behind that approach, they can often see where they're falling apart when a request comes to them that doesn't
Yes.
go in the right quote unquote order for them.
Yeah.
If a boss asks for a social response and they're a self-preservation personality, it's immediately going to cause some cognitive dissonance and a
Mm.
neurological response of stress.
Mm.
So that's
Hmm.
kind of interesting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So so we get into that a lot when I talk to people one-on-one. What's your core style and then what's the sub-style of that? So if we have 9 types and 3 sub-styles, we actually have 27 types in the
Yeah.
Enneagram.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So very rich.
Yes. And then there are a few other quick things I'll say about the layers. There is the center of expression, which is the main thing we use for teams, and
Hmm.
it defines where people sit in each of the 3 centers. So the centers are there's a body center, there's a heart center, and there is a thinking center. So the body center is also called action,
Hmm.
and that involves the numbers 8, 9, and 1. The heart center involves feeling and connection to heart, and those are the 2, 3, and 4 numbers. And the thinking center or the mind center involves the 5, 6, and 7 numbers. So
Hmm.
in the center of expression, after we know the core type and the instinct, we can look at the tri type or where someone sits in each of the 3 centers. So they
Okay.
can have a core type, but they have different way of representing their action, their feeling, and their thinking, even if their core type is the same as somebody else's, for instance.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
that tells us
Beautiful.
everything we need to know about how they do what they do. So that's really,
Yeah,
really effective with teams.
yeah. So do people come to you with this with hey, what should we do about John? What should we do about Jenny?
Yeah.
Because he or she is always getting into these issues and concerns. I mean, is that one of the ways that people come to you with about this?
One of the ways you most frequently it's there's a more, I mean, and it's evolved over time. I started
Yeah.
out doing this very one-on-one, and I still do a lot of that, but I often do it with sort of like a head sponsor or leader of an
Mm.
organization, and then they have a bigger organizational issue,
Mm.
and they bring me the question of how are we going to deal with the organizational issue. And one thing
Yes.
I'm always offering is like, well, you need common language.
Yes.
You need a way to understand each other, and you need people to export some level of self-awareness because it's just not common.
Yes.
So most people are not asked about their value system at work. Most people are not asked about their preferences of pace and conflict, which is what I'll say in just a second about those last 2 pieces of the Enneagram,
Hmm.
because it's just not the first question. The first questions are always technical or strategic or
Yes.
organizational, but interestingly, we waste literally billions of dollars worth of time by not having access to that stuff first.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the last 2 layers, yeah, ironic. The last 2 layers. So we really are getting to a moment in a lovely way where we understand that soft skill is the new hard skill. And
Yes.
obviously, that it's all
Absolutely.
very, very important, but pretty much everyone's qualified to do what they do,
Yes.
or they're not sticking around in the job. But soft
Yes.
skill is the differentiator. Human skill
Yes.
is the thing AI can't touch, the future can't touch. Communication and human skill is really the gold standard.
It is the gold standard. Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm
Um,
just thinking that, so much of our work together is about in search of the human organization. And, I'm thinking about how would in a parallel universe, two organizations deal with, for example, a big integration. If you come from it from the organization perspective, then you do go first of all through the finance and
yeah,
the legals and all that stuff, and then eventually you'll get to the people side of things. In if you go in that parallel universe, in the second universe, we're coming from the human organization, then it would start with this.
yeah,
Is one of the things yeah, it would start with the human, the interconnections, the preferences, these needs and instincts showing up as the sort of thing that will either help or hinder the integration, the coming together, the making whole.
right, right.
Yeah.
Well, and what I found over time of sort of studying and spending time with this and really working with hundreds of these is that honestly, if they go about it the second way first, they'll save a hell of a lot of time and money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And human capital, and burn rate of
Sure.
people,
Yeah.
because we are talking about nervous systems. Like I think people begin by thinking of this as only emotional intelligence, but
Hmm.
and like, oh, that'd be cool if we had more of that, and oh, maybe
Yes.
that does correlate to leadership, but realistically, we are burning through people on a burnout and neuroscience kind of level.
Yeah.
And so that neuro art, neuro rest thing is really our next gold standard in terms of what we need to be reaching for here
Mm.
and forward in terms of getting people back to their highest and best.
Yeah.
They can't
Beautiful.
just keep burning and pushing and pushing and burning.
No.
So the last two things that are part of the Enneagram that I'll be really quick about so we can get into it later in more detail is one is called stance, and that is essentially how you go closer to or farther away from people. And
Yes.
so there are some that are more compliant, some that are more withdrawn, some that just need different things from people. But if you have a high withdrawn person and a low withdrawn person, if they don't know that about each other, they're not going to understand each other, right? So
Mm.
there's that.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then the last element is a conflict style. So we
Yes.
look at whether or not people are assertive, or if they're reactive, or if they're avoidant. And
Yes.
all three have pluses and minuses about them. Some people communicate more like case study level when they need to resolve a conflict. Other people are pure reaction. But when you
Yes.
combine an aggressive stance with a reactive conflict style, it looks like anger to somebody else, although the
Mm.
person doing it may not feel angry.
Yes.
So then there you have it, misunderstanding.
Yeah.
So really, it's interesting when I go over one of these with a person for an hour, they immediately start going, "Oh, that's why I don't get along with so and so."
That's right. And it isn't it amazing, that because that's such a powerful place to leave this, have listeners think about the situations and people and context that might have been, resonate with this episode. But the thing that I just got to was that, isn't it true that when there is a problem, the instinct is not towards understanding.
Right.
The
Not
instinct is
automatically.
towards the
Yeah.
instinct. The automatic instinct is my world of storytelling. I've got a story to explain why
And
Courtney is
judgment.
wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then here comes the judgment. Yeah, it's called the moral of the story. It's called
Yeah.
judgment. Yeah.
Yeah.
but then hopefully, we get some sane people in to help them get to the understanding, and then they can work it out. Yeah, but it's interesting how, and that's coming back to what you were saying about the core, when a group of people, when a whole company team does this, they have a shared language for going first to understanding, as opposed to the storytelling and judgment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you hear all the time, seek first to understand, and can we
Yeah.
give each other the benefit of the doubt? And
Yeah.
yes, and also, wouldn't it be nice if you had some real understanding and some accountability to put with that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think the offer I have to people listening, and a really good parlay to where we talk about the details of this in the future, is think about the most wicked problem you've ever encountered at work or in life,
Hmm.
and what would you have needed in hindsight, if it's in hindsight, to solve that problem or understand what's going on or get out of that box? Like
Yeah.
almost everyone, I would say everyone, can pull from the ether very rapidly something that they have been through that's on that level of disruption that they just can't figure out how to fix. But
Mm.
if you both have this language, if one of you has, it's harder for sure, you have a this really smooth, very, very simple path to at least seeing what's going on. You know,
Yes.
the answer may not be something that you both agree on right off the bat, but you'll know what's happening. The mystery is
Yes.
no longer there. And
Yeah.
the gut punches stop quite a bit because
Yeah.
you aren't, it's not so personal anymore.
Very
It's
nice.
really much more data and linear. So people should maybe go away from this episode like think about that. Like what was that situation for you? And what was
Yes.
the outcome? Did you get anywhere good with it, or are you
Yes.
still left going, I don't know. And feel free to send us some of those examples and ask, and we can even pull that thread into another one of these conversations when we get into the depth of one of the areas.
Absolutely. Yeah. Always great to hear from people and our listeners with any ideas, suggestions, questions that they have about this stuff. But for the time being, yeah, let's leave it at that. And then we'll come back in the future episodes and begin to explore some of the depths and complexities of the Enneagram. Yeah.
Absolutely. And if people have specific things they want us to talk about or answer, they should absolutely ask too, because it is quite complicated, but it is just endlessly fascinating too. And I
Yes.
guarantee whatever question you have, other people want to know about too.
Here, here. Beautifully said. Thank you,
Yes.
Courtney.
Thank you.